Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Heather, and thank you for coming to my channel to see this video. Maybe you're here because you booked a reading, or maybe you're here because someone said, "Oh my God, I had a reading with Heather, and I think you should try it out." No matter how you got here, I'm glad you're here, and I just wanted to tell you a few things about me. The number one thing that people want to know when they come here is, how did you start doing this? And I have a pretty good answer for that, one that might surprise you. You see, a long time ago, I started working in a trauma center emergency department. And the job that I have is very interesting and weird, and it doesn't really make sense with the title. But I noticed pretty quickly doing that job that I had a need and a desire inside of me to do more. And I'll explain what I mean. One of the components of my job is to go in with the physician to tell families that their loved one has passed away. And that is a really hard thing to do. So when I first started doing that, I was obviously very uncomfortable, right? That's just, it's terrible to hear that news no matter who, especially if it's your family, but really no matter whose family it is, like to be there with them in that moment when they get the news is just kind of a sticky situation. I found that I had a pretty big tolerance for the work, that I could sit there, I could maintain composure, I could not cry, I could hold them, I could embrace them, I could comfort them in that moment, I could gently lead them through the process that was to follow with the paperwork and the coroner and all the other things. But after a while, especially in some of the really, really terrible deaths, I found that I would come home and I would just be so frustrated that I couldn't do more. And then, I would almost kind of laugh at myself because, like, what could you possibly do, Heather? Bring the person back from the dead? There isn't anything else to do. And I remember one night when I came home and it was a really terrible death. And I came home really late and it was in the middle of the night. So my family was not awake. It was just me sort of pacing around the room in my house and just kind of angry, honestly, just angry at how I had gotten to this point, why I was still doing this job, like how sad the whole thing was, how unfair this particular death was on this particular night. And I just like shouted at the ceiling, why? Why? And I heard for the first, like one of the first times that I ever really clearly remember this, I heard very, very loud and clear in my head, "Wait for it." And that was it. Just wait for it. A few years later, there was a death that was really, really, really heartbreaking. And by this time, I had realized that I was indeed psychic. I mean, I always thought that I was kind of really good at the job. Oftentimes be the case that I would get called to go and do something, and before I would even get to the room or the space that I needed to go to, I would already sort of have an idea of the tone. Like I would kind of know whether to come in hot or come in lower or come in gentle or come in hard and fast. Like I would just kind of have an idea about what to do before I would even get there. And I would notice also too that my mind would get additional information. And a lot of times I thought, am I making this up? Like, why am I being shown something in my head? But it does make sense for this situation. Like maybe that's real. Maybe I just go with it. And so it was a combination of sort of me going with all of this input, this extra input that I was getting, and me sort of figuring out that the assumptions I thought I was making up were actually true. By the time this death happened, I was in a class to teach me how to use the gift. But there was a young man that passed away one morning, and it was just a really terrible freak accident. But if you looked at him, he just looked like he was sleeping. Like there was no injury on him. Obviously, it was like a head injury, but other than just a bruise right here, you couldn't really see a whole lot going on. What I can tell you is that when I took his family into the room was dark because we dimmed the lights. I was just standing there with his very stoic family member, and all of a sudden, I could just hear him screaming in my head. I could just hear him screaming. And what he kept saying was, "I didn't mean to die. I didn't mean to die. I didn't mean to die." And so I thought, oh gosh, like this is a really important message. I cannot mix um, these two worlds. In my role in the hospital, I am a very professional person. I still felt though that the message that this spirit was screaming at me, and I could see him standing there. Like in the physical world, his body was here, but in my head, his body was standing straight here and he was just screaming. And so, what I chose to do, and it was pretty quick thinking on my part, but what I chose to do was just wrap my arm around his family member and say, you know, when he woke up this morning, he didn't mean to have this happen. He didn't mean to hurt you in this way. He did not mean to leave you today. And she did not skip a beat before she said, I know. I can hear him right now. He's saying, I love you. I love you. I love you. So for me, that was a huge um, changing moment. It was a big moment for me. It was like, oh, well, things are different now. Like you have to explore this. I can remember, seeing spirits kind of do things or say things like, I'm just ready to go. They need to let me go. There's a lot that happens in a place with as much energy as a hospital. But the one thing that I've learned now after 7 years of doing this work is that you really can help people. You really can provide closure when you do mediumship. It is different from just holding their hands while they're in the ER and saying, I'm so sorry. Here's the next steps and goodbye. There's so much more that can be done with mediumship. Grief is a holy emotion. It demands a lot of respect, I think, from any person that's doing grief work, whether it be a therapist, whether it be professional counselor, any type of person that's trying to help with grief deserves um, needs to give it the respect it deserves. How did you come into this? I believe that it was because I was struck by lightning indirectly when I was 13 years old. Because it was shortly after that lightning strike that my uncle passed away, and he was more like a big brother to me than he was an uncle. But he passed away, and I had a series of dreams about him. And in the dreams, he had kind of gotten out of his grave. he, he was like knocking the dirt off of him and like kind of making fun of the clothes he had on and telling me that he was home, that he was okay, and he wanted me to be happy. He was like, "Just be I'm home. See, I'm home. I'm okay." But all that did to my by then I was 14. All that did to my 14-year-old brain was scare the piss out of me. It was a while before the next relative passed away, and then when that happened, I had another dream, and the dream literally ended with the phone call that woke me up to tell me that he had passed away. So at that point, I was like, okay, I know that I'm special. I know that I'm weird, but never in a million years did I think, oh, one day I'm totally going to be a medium. Like I don't know that I even knew what mediumship was. So even when I got into the ER and I knew, and my family knew that I was like kind of a weirdo, like it was still years before I understood, oh, like I had all of these people die in my family. Then my life and my professional life was all about death. And then now, boom, now it's all coming in. I've got respect for death because I've experienced it so many times with my family. Then I've got more respect for death because I've experienced it with multiple different people and culture, hundreds of different people, different cultures, different ways of dying. I've experienced all of this. And now here I am sitting in this spot to help you. So I want to kind of run through like how I work. So most people want to know what they need to do to prepare for a session. A session is you and I on this screen, on this camera, and I'm going to sort of put your mind at ease a little bit. I'm just going to talk to you about whatever's on my mind. And once I say the prayer for your session, which is right before we get on camera, once I say the prayer and then I open the Zoom meeting, where it's already on, like the channel is tuned in. What do I mean by channel? If you're in your car and you tune your radio to a certain channel, you are hitting a frequency. Your car is receiving a frequency. So, what I ask them to do is to make me a channel for only your people. And that actually means that my sweet, dear old grandmother gets kicked out of the room, right? Like all of my folks, they don't get to come in. It's just me, my spirit guides, your spirit guides, and your loved ones. Okay? Once we're on the camera, all of that has already happened. I've got your people lined up, and I want to see the first thing I want to see is what is your intention for the session? So I may ask you how you heard about me, and then I may ask you, well, okay, so when you heard about me and when it clicked in your mind that you want to do this, what was it that you think you wanted to do? Like what were you thinking? What was your first thought about, oh wow, I think I need a book? That tells me what your instinct for the session was. I want to know that. It's okay if you change your mind later, but I want to know what your instinct was for the session. You need to keep in mind too that your spirit guides know before you and before me that you're coming here. In fact, they try to find the medium that will best connect with your loved ones and best connect with you. So you and I on screen, it's new to us. I'm new meeting you, you're new meeting me. But that moment has been designed for a long time. So just trust in that. How do you prepare? You just know that it can happen. So if you're unsure and if you are really wanting this but are scared of it, I want you to just understand that really truly your loved ones outside of a body are a big ball of intelligent energy. Okay. And you have lived lifetimes upon lifetimes. And your soul, this big ball of intelligent energy, is the thing that is the constant. No matter how many bodies you've been in, your soul is constant. Your soul is accumulating knowledge. It's always going to be it. So when your loved one passes away, what's all that's happening is the body itself is being discarded. The body itself is being discarded. That soul is then released from that body, most of the time released just a few seconds early, right? And then the soul itself is still there. Here's the body, here's the soul, still there. If I could give you a pair of 5D glasses, then you would see souls all around you. Just like when you have 3D glasses on and you can see the movies kind of really cool in a really cool way. Things are kind of coming at you, right? You see 3D. Um, 5D glasses would produce orbs everywhere and whatever they chose to project. So, how does that work? If I say to you, imagine an apple, then I want you to just go with that. Just imagine an apple. Go ahead. Go ahead right now. Just do it. That space in your consciousness is the space that I use in my consciousness to allow them to communicate with me. Okay. So you could say, well, it's the imagination. Yes and no. What I'm doing awake and conscious is allowing them to have that space. That means my brain is tuned directly into that channel. I might be aware that the cat is over here um, or a UPS truck drove by. Like I might be aware of things that are not coming from loved ones, right? I'm still a human being on planet Earth. I'm awake. I still have a brain and my own conscious awareness. What I'm doing, though, actively and by choice, is giving over a lot of that awareness to them. So you'll see me close my eyes a lot. I actually got in trouble when I was in mediumship classes. I got in trouble for closing my eyes all the time, and I'm just such a visual person. I'm so like ADHD, obviously neurodivergent, that if I don't close my eyes, other things may interfere with what I'm trying to see. So even though I'm now to the point where I can sort of see both at once, it still helps me to focus in on the details of what I'm seeing if I close my eyes. Me channeling the visions, hearing words, seeing people that move around and show me things like up close. Like, for instance, a guy who was a farmer may go and he may show me his hands up close, just like that, so that I can see the calluses. And I may say something like, oh, he's showing me that he worked with his hands. Like, I see his hands were a big part of how he worked. Um, Mediums develop what I like to call a symbol library. And so, what that means is I've had a certain experience in my life. So there are certain things that mean something to me. So, for instance, if I see an apple, we'll go with an apple. If I see an apple, I'm thinking it's either the person is trying to tell me they were a teacher, or they're trying to tell me that they ate really healthy, or they're trying to tell me that you love apples and you just ate one, something like that. Okay. So everything sort of has a symbol and a meaning. I'm from a certain geographic area. I am also from a certain period of time. So things that are in my symbol library might not be in someone else's. So that's another thing that they do is match us up where your people are going to be able to talk with me using my symbols, and it's going to make sense to be in you. So what happens is it's kind of a two-way conversation then. So I'm saying, well, they're showing me this, this, and this, and it makes me feel this, this, and this. So what do you think about that? And then it becomes your interpretation and my interpretation. It's a lot. It's so, so, so much like playing charades. I'm not even kidding. It's like playing charades in my head with spirits. To prepare, I just want you to go ahead and just understand that this is natural, that for me, this is normal. Um, it's a gift, and I've just chosen to publicly use it. A lot of people probably do have a gift like this, whether or not they've practiced with it or tried to perfect it or learn more about it. For some people, it really freaks them out. It shouldn't. We are all in the light, we are all part of the light, and we are all connected. And so, all I'm doing is just tuning a little knob to your loved one. Okay. I only do this with permission. Another way you can prepare for your session is to say, okay, Dad, I really want to hear from you. Dad, I give you permission to talk to Heather. Just say whatever you want to say to Heather. That's a good way to prepare as well. Okay. Another question that comes up sometimes is what, how do I know it's real? Right? Like people want to like, oh, well, they really loved you and they're so proud of you. No, 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 no. I don't do that. I do something called evidentiary mediumship, which is, it's so funny that I was already practicing this way when someone asked me one time, do you do evidentiary mediumship? And I was like, what is that? But it was what I was already doing, which is I make sure that you believe it's your person. Your medium is not doing their job if they don't do this. What do I mean by that? What I generally do, this is how I operate and how I work. You will say, I really want to talk to my dad. And I'll say, okay, give me his first name. You will give me his first name. Then I will say to the crowd of spirits that have assembled for you, I will say, right now the floor is open for this person. Let's just say, I don't know, Frank. My dad's name is Frank, and the floor is open for Frank. So I will say, okay, Frank, come forward. And then Frank will walk in and he will start talking to me. That is how I do it. A lot of mediums will try to get the name. I have worked in healthcare for so long that we just don't think in terms of names. We think in terms of location. Like when we talk about patients, we talk about their room number. We don't talk about their actual name. And that's a HIPAA compliance thing, but it's just kind of my brain can't get out of that mode. So I do it this way. And also, I kind of like it because this is me being, as the medium, being really specific about who I want. One time I did get into kind of a pickle though, because there was a guy who came and he wanted to talk to his dad, whose name was, I think it was John, I think, but also his grandfather was John and his great grandfather was John. So yeah, they were all just talking over each other because they were like, no, that's my name too. So they have a sense of humor. They all knew who I wanted to talk to, but they still talked over themselves. So yeah, that was really funny. And we figured out that all of it was relevant to the three of them. Evidentiary mediumship is again like getting that really specific thing that there's no possible way I could have known. Um, I remember once this lady was like, well, how do I know my mom is still here? And the mom like described like something crashing through the window. And that had just happened like the week before. Or moms will often tell me what's been going on in the kitchen with regard to like food and things boiling over or a meal that was cooked. They tell me the stuff that you don't put on Facebook. And I think it's really funny that people think that mediums actually go scouring Facebook after they book a client. That's literally doesn't happen. I, I have two other jobs. I don't have time for that. And I don't want to do that. And that's cheating. And I would never. So when the messages come through after we've done the validation part, when the messages come through, once you know it's them, you can trust that message. That is the key to healing. Okay. The other thing is they live on. Like this is not a death is not at all an end. It is an end of a body that has, either got too sick to live or was incompatible with the soul. It does hurt to lose that visual representation of the other soul that you love. And though some people experience grief in a very severe way, and generally I find that if you just can't get over it, then there's a big lesson attached to that grief and the experience of that grief. And also sometimes it means that you've lived many lifetimes with that soul. And so losing them is very terrible. Okay. Okay, yeah. Will the spirit I want show up? And what if they, quote, didn't believe in this? I have never, ever, 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 7 years professionally doing this, I have never, ever once had a person ask for a spirit that did not show up. It is not a thing. Believe me when I say this, they want to come to this conversation as much as you want to come to this conversation. This is a rare treat for them. It is a very special thing. It's like they have the ability to just pick up the phone and say things to you. They're just using my understanding, they're using my brain, and they're using my voice and me to do it. If they didn't believe in mediumship in the lifetime, that doesn't matter at all. One of the biggest things I get is I don't want to bother them. First of all, heaven is really fun, and you can do in heaven whatever you want to do in heaven. You're generally involved in like learning and preparing for the next lifetime, but there's lots of free time. There's lots of ability to sort of indulge, and they have the time. You're not bothering them. You're just not. And they're also like not limited to sort of being in one place at one time doing one activity either. That's a human thing. That's not a soul thing. Okay. So when I say that they can watch over you while also simultaneously watching over the 50 other family members, true. Can you channel more than one person in a session? Yes, I can channel more than one person in a session, and I can do it kind of all at the same time. I like to bring them in one at a time though, because for me, I need to know who I'm talking to first. And then once I've had a conversation, I don't ask them to leave. I just ask them to sort of stand by while I can bring another one in. Just remember that they know each other, they hang out together, they know what's going on. They're still going to show you their personality, but sometimes there really is competition about who can do the most talking. And it's really funny how the moms sort of run the show. When there's a mother coming in, like nobody else is getting a word in edgewise until we talk to the mama, generally speaking. Dads aren't as pushy like that, but grandmothers can sometimes be pushy like that. But just know that if you want to talk to your mom, then they're coming. They're coming with bells on, and they will tell you what they think. Are they proud of you? That's another big question that I get a lot is, is my loved one proud of me? I can I cannot think of a single time ever when a spirit said, "Actually, no." Like, that's not gonna happen. They're not going to tell you that they're mad at you. They're not gonna tell you that they're angry with you. They're not gonna tell you that you did something wrong. They're not gonna tell you that they disapprove. What they're gonna do is they're gonna encourage you. They're going to say they love you. They are going to communicate that they understand that you're still fighting this physical fight on earth, and that that's really hard. And they understand now that things are different when you get to the afterlife. They become their old self again, right? So let's say that I'm afraid of heights in the life, and I get to heaven, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh well, that was dumb. Why? Not I shouldn't be afraid of heights anymore because it's fine, right? So they're not going to still be afraid of heights in heaven. All of that leaves you. You're also not going to hold grudges. You can see things happening. So, for instance, let's say that my mother dies and I go rob a bank. She's not going to say like, "You shouldn't have done that. You're terrible. You're going to hell now." Like, that's not a thing either. She's going to tell your medium that she understands. She knows that you were stressed out. Like, she's going to just help walk you through it. Like, it's not that they approve of everything. It's just that they understand non-judgment, and they understand unconditional love. So it's not about being mad or sad or any of that. It's about holding you in a place of unconditional love, understanding that you still are in the physical body and you have a limited understanding, and also just sort of encouraging you and trying to help you through whatever it is you're going through. And a lot of times that really just is, honey, I'm here. I see that you are still feeding my birds, or I see that you are still in your job, and I see that you got the promotion, or they'll say, I see that my grandchild finished kindergarten. They want you to understand that when they died, they still keep up with you. It's really easy. In fact, it's easier for them to keep up with you after they pass away than it is in the body, because they have all access to you instead of just when you have time for them. That is pretty much a good starter to how do I approach a session with Heather. It may be a little too much information, but it truly is just me sort of tuning into them and then asking you, okay, do you understand this? Do you understand that? Do you understand this? This is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm feeling. And then you affirming or saying, no, I don't understand that. That might be blah, 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 right? Spirits will sometimes come in the room and talk over each other. And again, that's why I want the name, because I want to single them out and say, I only want this person. Occasionally, I have a client who's a skeptic. You're a medium and you're trying to read a skeptic. Then they have made some kind of deal with themselves that unless you say this specific thing in this specific way, they're not going to believe anything you say. And as a medium, that is just horrific to do that to a person. I would say don't do it. 9 times out of 10, I still am going to get that information anyway, because they know that my number one goal is to validate them. But if you make me aware of it, then the human Heather goes, oh no, like if I don't get this, then she's not gonna believe this. And then she's gonna regret booking the session. And then she's gonna, like, her faith is gonna drop. That is so damaging to me as a person that I don't want to be involved in that. If you're a skeptic, I would kindly ask that you stand clear of doing something like this until you are truly open to it. That is the biggest thing. It's okay if you are nervous. It is okay if you don't understand it. It is okay if you are a little bit scared, even. It's not okay to purposely set me up for failure. That's all I would say. There's been several times when people have said, I asked my dad for a sign and I just wanted to see if you would say it. It throws the entire session off. It throws off my energy. It starts making me become nervous. And when I'm nervous, I cannot channel accurately. So don't do that. Don't come to the table and not be open to whatever happens. When you come forward, I want you to truly be open to the information that will heal you, whatever that is. If it's a psychic reading, it may just be that you need to know something about your journey, right? It's not all about channeling your dead people, right? I do psychic readings the same way. But I ask in my prayer that you get the information that you need in this moment right now today for your hope, your health, your healing, and your highest good. Those four things. So, what I would ask of you is if something is coming through, generally speaking, if it's something kind of serious, I'm going to ask if it's okay to deliver the message. Generally speaking, though, they just sort of let me say whatever it is they're showing me. Be open to that. Sometimes it's hard to hear when we're getting in our own way or we are kind of messing things up for ourselves. I promise you that we are our own worst enemies with regard to that. So just be open, believe that it can happen. And if you are looking to talk to a loved one, go ahead and give them permission to come through. And you can even tell them what you want to talk about. Like you could say to them, like, Dad, I want you to come through. I'm so sorry I wasn't there when you passed. You don't have to tell me that. Just wait and see what happens in the session. In fact, in the beginning, I will ask you not to say too much because I want to get all of the things that I can get so that you know it's really your person. Once we get the validation out of the way, then I'll let you tell me all the stories you want to tell me. Okay? So I hope this helped. And I hope that you're excited because I'm excited to meet you. And I truly do get kind of a little giddy when I meet people for the first time. And I'm excited to do the work. So let me know if you have any more questions in the comments. Thanks.